Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rec Chat, where students and professionals talk about all things in collegiate recreation. I'm your host, Stephanie Calhoun from West Virginia University, where I'm a coordinator for competitive sports. Thank you for joining us today, either live or via our archived YouTube channel. We're glad to have you. Joining me behind the scenes is the Rec Chat team. We're excited today to have Andrew Doyle and Ann Storey from the Small Programs Advisory Council joining us today. We'll be discussing ways to keep programming fresh and ever evolving through the lens of a small program. For those of you following along on Twitter or Instagram, we'll be asking questions using the Rec Chat handle regarding small programs, so feel free to participate by chiming in there. Before we introduce our panelists, we also want to share our gratitude with our friends at NERSA headquarters for all of their support. If you haven't already, make sure you give them a follow on Twitter at NERSA Live. If you're looking for more ways to get involved with Rec Chat, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube. Give Rec Chat a follow or subscribe to make sure you stay up to date on the latest news. So without further ado, we'll let our panelists start by introducing themselves. Tell us your name, your position, institution, and what your favorite baked good is and why.
All right, I am Andrew Doyle. I'm the coordinator of recreation at Southern New Hampshire University. If I was a baked good, I would be a cookie because very versatile. You can have all types of cookies. And I think I'm a jack of a lot of trades, master of very few. So I'd go with cookie.
Hi, my name is Ann Storey. I'm the Assistant Director of Campus Life and Housing at Sheridan College in Sheridan, Wyoming. My favorite baked good is a scone that is non-citrus flavored from Andy's coffee shop here in Sheridan. They're special. They don't make them every day, and they melt in your mouth, and they're perfect and delicious in every way.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you both. So we'll start things off with our first question. How do you continually keep programming fresh?
That is a very good question. I think it's something that people at all institutions are either struggling with or focused on. What we do here is we really rely on our students, both staff and participants, and see what do they want to do? What have they seen their friends do at other institutions? What have they seen online that they want to try out? And kind of rely on their feedback to keep things exciting for them and for us. But I think a lot of times we'll really rely on our student staff, especially because they're usually the ones that are committed and invested in the program. So they're usually spending some of their free time researching different programs that we can bring in.
Yeah, we also use our student staff. We also, being part of the housing office, we have students in and out of here really consistently. So we do a lot of just-in-time feedback, asking what they'd like to see, throwing different ideas out there, maybe trying something on a small scale to test it out, and then seeing if it will work bigger. So drop in spike ball before we have a spike ball tournament, for example. And another one is I use NERSA a lot. I'm out in the boonies. And so it's great to check in with other folks, see what they're doing, what's worked, what didn't. And the small programs group has really been helpful since we're in similar situations very often.
Yeah, we have those resources there with NERSA, so we might as well utilize them. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You both kind of mentioned it with the last question, but how specifically do you use student staff to creatively program and to solve problems? What are some ways that you rely on them for that?
For me, our students are the ones that are closest to the programs. They're our target demographic, and they're the ones that are usually out there executing them, whether I'm there or not. So they'll definitely see things from a perspective that I won't, and they'll be there at times that I'm not. So they always bring in new ideas. And I will always try and bring them in to conversations about issues we're having. If we're having issues with attendance at a program, talk to students, ask for their honest feedback, because if you get trust, or build a relationship with a student and have good trust in them, and you ask for their opinion, they will give it to you and they will be blunt about it. There are students that you won't have a relationship with, and they'll also be very honest with you, and sometimes it can be a little stressful to get that feedback, but you really have to rely on them in their opinion, because they're the not the customer, they're who we are there working with and trying to provide opportunities to.
Yeah, we do, again, similar, but we also cross-train all of our students. So we work as one big department within our student activities, intramurals, and outdoor. So all of our students are basically trained on how we run our show. So say we're short-staffed, or we need, we have a bigger event that needs more staffing, we can move them over, and they're generally trained, so they feel confident jumping into anything. And then part of our training as well as a lot of leadership training. So maybe they don't know exactly how to run a specific program, but I can say, hey, I need you to go take open gym tonight. And they have the confidence, they know that I support them, and they can jump in and take the keys and make open gym happen, even if it's not perfect. So I think that's one of the benefits to being a small program too, is you can reach out to those other students you might have relationships with training and just kind of pushing them a little bit to do a little more.
Yeah, at small programs, I feel like we will often give responsibilities to students that a lot of places are giving to professional staff. I mean, a lot of larger institutions or larger programs are giving those kind of responsibilities to their students as well. But they are going to look at things sometimes from a different point of view. They'll have a different backgrounds. Like if you've been in the profession for 5, 10, 15 years, you're conditioned to think a certain way and look at things a certain way. So sometimes having a student do something that you may typically do will bring in a new point of view that you never would have thought of, because you were so used to viewing of, this is how I schedule, this is how everyone schedules these, this is how we, tier sport clubs. So bringing a fresh set of eyes that may not be biased towards like your upbringing can definitely bring a new way to solve problems or just do something differently.
Yeah, that fresh perspective can go a long way, and it's even more powerful when it's from students that you trust. So knowing that you do have those students that you can rely on, do you also have partners across campus that you rely on, people that you work with? If so, how do you utilize these partnerships to benefit the entire campus community?
I'm not going to take too much, because I know I've heard Anne talk about a partnership she does on her campus with the library and I think health, so I won't touch too much, and I'll let her share some interesting programs she's done that I've heard about. But I think on a small program, a small campus like ours, at least, we get to know everybody, and you will definitely have partnerships working on events that you typically may not see, because we need help to program things. We need help to fund things. We need help to find space for different events. So finding those partnerships is super important. So I'm working with almost every single office in student affairs and on campus and deans of colleges at some point throughout the year, which I never thought I would be, working with like our dean of like business on like a boxing class or something like that. So you get to know people a lot more, I'd say, on a smaller campus, since those meetings have less people. You're going to get more face time, and you can use that in ways that you never think you would. But I'll turn it over to Anne, because I know she has some cool programs she's done.
We do have some cool programs, and I agree. We work with just about everybody on campus in some way or another. One of the ones we started this year, I called REC the library, so REC the library. I'm really good friends with our head librarian, and I wanted some interesting space to do some programming, so I just asked if we could come in and play spike ball, and then she recommended, well, what about volleyball? We have a short shelf, and then like, well, what about can jam in between the stacks? And it's kind of gotten ridiculous, but great. So we just set up sort of playground, indoor stuff, and we play games in the library. We also have had Nerf battles. We're flipping over furniture. Students are running around. We posted a day ahead of time, so people that want to study will know that maybe Tuesday night is not the night to study in the library. But it also, not only does it promote recreation and wellness, but it gets a different group of folks. Maybe someone who wouldn't go into a gym, who might feel intimidated, will go to the library, or someone who did come to study will stay for some spike ball. Or we played Foursquare. We had jump ropes and just different games in there. And then another one we partnered with is our counseling services group, and we did Sex Week on campus. So sex education all week, all different kinds of things going on. We had public health come in, and then we also sponsored some games. So like we played bag toss and other things for prizes, but you had to answer trivia questions about sexual health. So we just incorporated what we do into what they do and made some really great partnerships. And then my staff was available to help with whatever programming they needed as well. So again, another chance for them to grow in their leadership and just sort of learning some different things about campus. And honestly, students want to talk about sex with their peers, not with us. So it's better to have them there anyway.
Those are awesome. I think it makes a big difference when the recreation is coming to you, showing that it can go anywhere. It's not just the building or the space. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about the programming calendar. How do you all put your calendar together for the year? Is it done through an individual program, areas, or department-wide, or is it even division-wide?
It's for us, it's a little bit of all of it. I mean, we are a small program. We have 2 full-time staff that would do everything programming-wise and facility-wise. So we'll usually get together, start of summer and start thinking of everything. We have those tentpole events that we always know are going to happen, like those big intramural leagues and tournaments, different fitness center events, or homecoming. Usually partner with Res Life and put battleships on in the pool, and we know that's going to happen. So we have those, and we'll put those up on our calendar, and then we will go in and kind of review those kind of fringe or newer activities or programs that we've put on in the past and say, are we going to keep this? How can we change this to make it more successful? What was a barrier here? And sometimes, moving something in the year, like pushing the start time of a group fitness class 15 minutes because you heard from a lot of participants that it was hard for them to get out of class and get there in time. So things like that. It can be small, it can be big, like changing the season, or just changing the location of something, like having intramurals be in a non-traditional spot, like Ann was just talking about. So we will typically know what we're going to do from our standpoint. We also have on our campus a campus programmers meeting that meets once a month. So everyone at least one representative from each department will come together and talk about what they're doing so that we can try and combine our efforts and not duplicate programs if we're going to do it. That way we don't have like 5 people doing sex ed bingo in a certain week, and kind of help people come together and collaborate on those programs. So it's a little bit of everything.
Ours is a combined effort as well. We start the SCAN group, which is our activities network that does the big contracted events, dances and concerts and stuff. They plan farther ahead because they do need contracts. They're bringing in big folks. And then once their calendar's up, that's when I program sort of around that. I'm a lot more flexible with what I can do because I'm not bringing in outside entities usually, and I have my own spaces. So I put out a general program per semester, or general calendar per semester, and then I'm really flexible. I might change week to week, even depending. Weather is a big issue here, so I might plan a hiking trip, and then we have 6 inches of snow, so we're not going hiking. So I have to be really flexible with stuff like that, especially in the outdoor programs. But thankfully, I've got a lot of autonomy in that space. I've built that up just over time. So we do work together, though. If there's something I can participate in or get my staff to do, or maybe we again do something early in the day to promote an event at night, we may do that as well. So we just try to work together, and then we have a big calendar for the whole institution where we see concerts in our big concert hall, so that we're not doing an intramural tournament the same night as the Boston Brass is here or something, because we don't want to overlap those kinds of things, and try to encourage our students to go. Like, I'll cancel open gym when there's a big event going on somewhere else so that my staff can go as well.
Yeah, having that perspective and knowing all the different ways that students are spending their time definitely is important to keep in mind when programming. Mm-hmm. What are some strategies that you all have used when evaluating programs?
I think too often the focus on evaluating programs is numbers based. I think we have started to take more of a focus on what kind of impact is it making on our students and the campus as a whole, and like what kind of, how do we want to fit into the campus landscape and help shape like the experience of the students that are here. That's what our biggest focus is when we're looking at programs. Obviously, if we're looking at something that is a huge bust financially, and no one's showing up, that's going to be, you know, the deal breaker there. But if something's kind of on the cusp of, you know, successful or not in a financial or quantitative standpoint, we'll kind of look at, okay, what kind of impact did it have on the attendees? And we do surveys, we follow up surveys with everyone that we can, word of mouth. We meet with SGA and see what their general consensus of our programs are. But our biggest goal is to not just provide, you know, the normal, hey, come show up 7 p.m., play flag football, and then leave. But we want them to have fun while they're doing it, get something out of it for participants and employees. So that's, we kind of look at holistically and how we're making a difference.
Yeah, I would echo that too. I mean, numbers are great. I like to see, you know, my open gym, I love to see 60, 70 people there. But what's more important is, like the other night I went up and we'd start our intramural basketball league, and it's usually small. We have 4 or 5 teams and we had the same. But every member of the men's and women's basketball team, our women's volleyball and women's soccer, were all there cheering everyone else on. I had men's basketball refereeing since they couldn't play. So for me, it wasn't about the number of bodies in the gym, but we had music going and people were dancing and having a really good time. So that, even if we had 10 people in the gym, I would have been happy because we were all having a good time and bringing athletes and non-athletes together, which was also important, to bring our teams into that. And then I just like ears to the ground. Again, being in the housing office, I'm really fortunate to see lots and lots and lots of students. So I'm always listening. What are they talking about? What questions are they coming to me with? Are they comfortable coming in here? Do they know this is a place that they're welcome? Do they know that their opinion matters, that we want to hear what they want to do? What was fun? What was not fun? Like, you know, and they'll, like we said earlier, they'll shoot straight and tell you what was good and not good. So again, regardless, you know, if we have 5 people that go on a hike, I want them to all have an awesome experience. I don't need a full van to know that something went really well. So.
Do you offer certain strategies that you use to determine if it's time to sunset or modify a program, or is it just from talking to those students, kind of like you've been mentioning?
It's kind of a case-by-case basis for us. We won't just say, hey, no one showed up to this year, and last year we had 4, you know, teams, or we had 20 teams. We'll see, look into a little research into it, see, like, reach out to the people that have done it before and see why they didn't do it again. Just because it doesn't work out the first time doesn't mean you eliminate it. It could just need a little bit of tweaking, and I think part of that is just kind of getting out there and talking to people and seeing what could get people interested in it, or what is keeping them from attending it. I think it's way more beneficial to yourself, and it's the learning experience for your students as well to actually put that work in. And it also helps build a relationship between your program and the campus and the students, showing that you care about their opinion and you're trying to figure out what works for them. So it's definitely case by case, but you have to put the work in and not just rely on, hey, no one showed up, we're never doing this again.
Yeah, we take a similar approach. I'm willing to fail, and I think it's okay to teach my students to fail as well. It's okay, you know, if they get really upset if no one shows up to their table they did at lunchtime. I'm like, it's okay, you tried, you put it out there. You know, maybe we try it again next semester. So I think there's a difference between failing and then the program just really not being successful. So I always encourage them to give it a couple tries. And we ebb and flow here. Sometimes students are really into sports one year, maybe the next year they're more into crafting and learning hobby style activities. So we just kind of keep rolling things through, keep test driving them, see how they do. But again, I encourage my students to try, and even small, maybe not as successful events are still a good experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot to be learned through failure sometimes, which then just turns into a better experience next time.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you utilize within your program to brainstorm new ideas for programming? Can you think of other partners on campus or within your user groups that you use to brainstorm?
I mean, I feel like we're saying this over and over again, but the students are one of the biggest ones, one of the biggest groups that we talk to see what do they want to do, and sometimes it can be with a little bit of influence. So, for instance, here our campus, flag football, like most campuses, is super popular. They wanted more, but we necessarily didn't have the space for a full flag tournament, so we tried to go to the 4-on-4. And at first, we had huge pushback because they had never done it before, and they actually convinced us to go to a regular. We had some seniors that have been doing it for years and had always gone to the Region 1 tournament at Springfield College, and we're like, this is our last time to play. Can we please just play, regular old flag football? And we kind of gave in, and then the next time we were around, we tried 4v4, and people that were staunchly against it all of a sudden loved it. They loved it, how different it was. They liked that there were significantly less forfeits because it was easier to get that many people there. So sometimes just kind of not forcing, but giving them something new and saying, hey, just try this out, you might like it, helps. But students usually will give feedback on what our campus partners, they've all come from different institutions from across the country, and they all have had a different experience with their rec programs on their campuses, and they come up to us and say, hey, when I was an undergrad here, we used to do this. Maybe you guys can try that, and that can be a way that we can start a partnership. Again, we use a lot of the nursery resources. I'm going to be definitely trying to do rec the library at SNHU's campus. It's really a matter of using as many resources as you can and gathering as much information, and then seeing what would work for you or how you can make those things work for your program.
I work with the community members as well. We're a small town as well, and so I work with the rec department locally and with the local YMCA to see maybe if they offer something that we can't offer, just for space, time, funding, whatever it might be. So I may reach out to them and say, hey, we got some students that want to do, say, a soccer tournament, but we don't have the space. Could we do it with you? Could I discount their sign up fee, something like that? So if there's things that we can do to just promote movement, promote action, I like to do that with our local folks. And then I also work Trio. We work closely with them. They've got a lot of good partnerships with students, a lot of good relationships with them. So they're doing a color run this year, and my staff is going to help staff that. So that's going to be a good experience for them too, because it's a pretty big undertaking that I'm glad that I don't have to be in charge of, because I don't want to do a 5K. So my students still get to experience that. So yeah, we just try to reach out wherever we can, even faculty. We've had a lot of students really stressed out, really having a hard time. And so we're asking faculty, what can we do to help? So can we offer massages? Can we offer more activities? Can we do stress relief kinds of educational things as well? So we can reach out that way. So we have close ties with lots of folks here.
Wonderful, thank you. So if you both were to give one piece of advice to a colleague at a small program regarding programming or scheduling, what would it be?
There's a lot of things that I wish I had learned when I first got. This is my first job at a small program, and I wish I could go back 4 years ago and tell myself a million things. But I think the one, if I could only give one piece of advice, it would definitely be to be active, and not just in the way that we think of being active as recreation professionals, but be active on campus, be involved in things, go to things, meet people, talk to students. That is going to help bring people like eyes to your program and help you in ways you may not know for years. It's going to get people to appreciate your investment in their program, so they will invest in your programs as well, and they'll help partner with you and give you feedback, and just you'll gain allies that way. again, talking to students, I remember when I was an undergrad, my supervisor at the time, Dave Leach at UNH, who was still there, I had never seen any professional speak to students as much as he did. He was always behind the front desk, talking to students as they came in. Sometimes it was very confusing what he was talking about, but he was still talking to them and building those relationships, and a lot of people on campus got to know him, and in turn, he was able to help shape that facility and that program. And I like to think that I learned a lot from him, and hopefully, I think I brought some of that to my day-to-day, operations here. But just being out there, being active, being at the front of your program will pay dividends.
I will ditto that, and then because I've always been in a small program, and then my one piece of advice would be, don't be afraid to try something because you're small. You can do things big programs can do. It might not look the same or feel the same, but just try it. Go out and do the thing. If you don't have the space, find the space. If you don't have the resources, just you keep working hard. We have intramural tournaments. We go on trips. We do all kinds of really cool stuff. And I'm the professional staff in this department. So you can make it happen. You just have to work hard. So don't be discouraged when you go, like I did to my first Nurse National, and went, oh, I'm much too small. I can't do this. Yes, you can. You can do the thing. So just be encouraged by that you can also do great stuff at your small school.
Yeah, and kind of to echo what Ann just said about, like, when you go to these conferences and you're the only one there, that's what a lot of small programs are going through, and that's what encouraged me to join the council, and we have the Region 1 Small Programs Committee. There are people that are in the same exact situation as you, and if you aren't networking with them and you are just letting yourself be afraid to do what big schools are doing, and big programs, and like those historic programs that you see 30 people walking around at the expo, your program is going to suffer from that, and you as a professional are going to suffer from that, and in turn your students are going to suffer from that. So go out and join rec chats like this, follow the Small Programs Advisory Council, and just network and talk to people. Like, talk to anyone that is working in a small program, and if you find a similar issue, you guys will have something to talk about for the entirety of the conference. So never be afraid to reach out to someone at another small program. If you're at a small program, try and step up and join a committee, do something, and get small programs out there so people can stop feeling afraid or feeling like they're less because they're at a small program.
Yeah, come sit with me at lunch.
Yeah.
At the conference. Anytime, come sit. I'll hang out with you. So you won't be by yourself.
Yeah, like they were saying, the Small Programs Advisory Council is a wonderful resource to use. They will have a presence at the conference. Anything else to mention there with that?
We're really cool and we have great ideas. So email us, call us. I'm happy to chat anytime. So is Andrew. I'm going to volunteer him. You can call him too.
We have at the annual conference, anyone who's going there, we have roundtable, we have pre-con. If you're able to go to that, the pre-con is special. It's 2 parts this year. So check that out on the NERSA website. Check out the roundtable. We're going to have a resource guide for anyone going to the conference to see what we can recommend, what might be helpful in our eyes. So check that out. But just get involved.
Yep.
It's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard a rumor that there may be small programs, big ideas stickers at the conference. So that's a good way to recognize other people who are at the conference when you see them with the small programs, big ideas sticker. That's an easy way to start the conversation and get to know those people. But thank you all for coming to the show today. We really appreciate having you both, Andrew and Ann, joining us to share your knowledge, both about your experience and about the Small Programs Advisory Council. I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say that there was a lot of good tips and recommendations that we can bring back to our campuses, whether large or small. So thank you both for joining us today. If you want to hear more about the Small Programs Advisory Council, feel free to check out the Rec Chat from November 2017. So a little bit of a throwback, but there's some more information there if this is something that you were interested in and wanted to learn more about it. We'll have the link on Twitter soon, so be sure to follow us at Rec Chat to be able to find that. But we hope that you all have a great rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks again for joining us, and be well.